The chamber was vast, a cold expanse of polished obsidian and towering pillars. At the center, beneath the piercing gaze of the Galactic High Command, stood a lone human. His posture was relaxed, his hands folded behind his back, his expression unreadable. His presence was an anomaly, one fragile figure before a room full of warlords, admirals, and conquerors. They had seen thousands of species kneel before them, and they expected no difference from this one. The supreme strategos of the Empire leaned forward, his 4 golden eyes glinting with amusement. "You requested this audience, human. Speak your terms of surrender." The diplomat did not react to the condescension. His voice, calm and deliberate, carried across the chamber. "You will leave Earth alone." A ripple of laughter echoed through the hall. Some of the younger officers exchanged smug glances, already composing reports of their inevitable triumph. The strategos smirked. "And why would we do that?" The diplomat's gaze was steady. "Because if you do not, you will regret it in ways you cannot yet imagine." The room fell silent for half a breath before someone scoffed. A warlord, his exoskeleton gleaming, stepped forward. "Do you hear yourself? Your species is barely spacefaring. You have no empire, no fleets, no technology to match ours. The only reason we even granted you this meeting was for amusement." Still, the diplomat did not waver. "You think power is measured by fleets and weapons. You believe technology is the deciding factor. You are mistaken." A murmur spread through the council, but none took the warning seriously. "You are a fool," the strategos said. "We will reduce your planet to compliance within a cycle. We have burned civilizations greater than yours." The diplomat exhaled, slow and measured. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning. You believe you are marching to conquest. In reality, you are walking into your own destruction." A voice from the side sneered. "And why is that?" He did not blink. "Because you do not know what you are waking." The silence stretched. The warlord laughed again. "You speak as if your people are something to fear." At that, the diplomat's lips curved slightly, but it was not a smile. "There is a name among my people," he said. "A name that has become legend. A name whispered to frighten those who think they are untouchable." The council remained unimpressed, but something in his voice made a few shift uncomfortably. "And what is this name?" the strategos asked, voice dripping with mockery. For the first time, the human's eyes darkened, his tone dropping to something colder, something older. "The Baba Yaga." There was no laughter this time. The words meant nothing to them, yet a primal instinct, buried deep in their minds, made them uneasy. The diplomat turned. "You have been warned." He walked out without another word. The invasion began with precision. The Imperial fleet, an armada of dreadnoughts and assault carriers, descended upon Earth like an eclipse. Tactical bombardments paved the way for ground deployment, targeting infrastructure, communication hubs, and military installations. Standard procedure. They had done this 1,000 times before. Initial resistance was expected, ineffective planetary defenses, scattered attempts at defiance. They would crush it within hours. Except they didn't. The first sign that something was wrong came when entire battalions went silent. At first, command dismissed it, faulty comms, atmospheric interference. Then the reports trickled in, fragmented and unnerving. Troops disappearing mid-patrol. Convoys obliterated without a trace of enemy fire. The Empire's ground forces had engaged human combatants in the ruins of a shattered city. The Imperials, heavily armored and supported by war drones, moved with superiority. The humans should have been easy prey. They weren't. They struck from the shadows, precise and merciless. They knew the terrain better than any Imperial strategist could predict. They anticipated patrol routes, ambush points, supply drops. They did not fight conventionally. They did not fight fairly. And they did not hesitate. An Imperial officer managed to send a distress signal before his transmission cut into static. His last recorded words, "They're not fighting like soldiers. They're hunting us." The fleet orbiting above attempted deeper scans, deploying surveillance drones to track movements. What they found made no sense. Heat signatures flickered and vanished. Entire regiments were there one moment, gone the next. The Empire responded with force, unleashing orbital strikes to burn out resistance pockets. But the humans did not fight from strongholds. They fought from the shadows, from the ruins, from the very ground itself. Interrogations were impossible. Captured humans said nothing, their expressions eerily calm, as if they had already won. Some Imperials broke first, speaking of the whispers they had heard among prisoners. One name repeated over and over: Baba Yaga. The commanders dismissed it as superstition, but fear is a disease. It spreads unseen. On the 12th day of the invasion, the Empire's most elite division, the Crimson Legion, launched a final purge operation. Their orders were clear: exterminate resistance, eradicate any survivors. They never returned. What remained of their transmissions played back screams, scattered gunfire, then silence. Imperial command grew uneasy. This was no ordinary rebellion. It was something else. Something worse. Then, in the dead of night, an emergency alert flashed across every Imperial warship. A message. Simple. Chilling. Leave. Attached was a live feed from one of their own security cameras. A darkened Imperial command post, bodies scattered like discarded dolls. In the center of the carnage stood a single figure, unarmed, unarmored, watching the camera as if waiting. The last thing the recording captured was movement, too fast, too precise, before the feed cut to black. Panic spread through the Imperial ranks like a virus. Entire squads abandoned their posts, deserting into the ruins. Discipline fractured. The enemy they had mocked as primitive was not fighting a war, they were orchestrating a slaughter. Imperial commanders tried to reassert control, but fear had already taken root. Soldiers whispered of shadows moving where none should be, of unseen hands dragging men into the abyss. Reports flooded in of officers found dead in their own barracks, throats slit with precision, weapons untouched. Every intercepted human transmission carried the same name: Baba Yaga. High Command demanded answers. Intelligence teams scoured human records, searching for any mention of the name. What they found only deepened their horror. Baba Yaga was not a title. It was a myth. A ghost story whispered among human warriors. A figure that embodied death itself. The perfect predator. The unstoppable force that came when one's fate was sealed. Imperial strategists scoffed. No single human could wield such power. This was psychological warfare, an illusion of fear designed to weaken them. Then the executions began. Fleet commanders, murdered in their own warships. Security footage showed nothing. No breach alarms, no signs of struggle. Just empty hallways one moment, lifeless bodies the next. Supply convoys burned before they reached their destination. War machines fell silent as their systems were hijacked. The humans were no longer just resisting. They were dismantling the invasion piece by piece. Desperation gripped the Empire. Reinforcements were called. A battalion of elite cybernetic enforcers landed on Earth, each warrior enhanced beyond human capability. They lasted less than a day. A final transmission from their leader played on a loop across every Imperial channel. His voice, once confident, now trembled. "We were wrong. He's real. He's real. And he's here." No more orders came from high command. The upper echelons had gone silent. Some speculated they had fled. Others suspected the truth, that they had been the first to fall. And then the final message arrived. A distorted feed. The bridge of an Imperial dreadnought, its crew slumped over their consoles. A single figure stood among the dead. The Diplomat. The man they had mocked. He stepped forward, his face illuminated by the crimson glow of the emergency lights. He spoke with the same calm, measured tone he had used in their war council. "You should have left when I warned you." The screen flickered. Then, one by one, every Imperial warship system shut down. Engines died. Weapons locked. Communications severed. No alarms. No warnings. Just the cold, inevitable realization that they were already dead. The silence was absolute. The once mighty Imperial fleet, now powerless, drifted above a planet they could no longer conquer. Weapons useless, engines cold, escape impossible. Every command input returned the same message: access denied. On board, fear had turned to something worse: acceptance. They were already dead. Across every ship, emergency lights flickered as a transmission forced its way onto their screens. The Diplomat appeared once more, his face calm, his voice steady. It's over. No threats. No ultimatums. Just a statement of fact. A dreadnought captain, hands shaking, attempted to respond. What do you want? The Diplomat tilted his head slightly, as if the question amused him. I want you to remember. A pause. A shift in the air, though no one could explain why. You came here believing yourselves untouchable. You saw humanity as weak, as prey. You thought war was something you controlled, something that bent to your will. The image on their screens flickered, replaced with a live feed of Earth's surface. Their forces, what little remained, were being wiped out. Not in battle, there was no battle left to fight. They were running, fleeing into the ruins, hunted like animals. The Diplomat's voice returned. You were never the hunters. A chilling realization settled over the remaining officers. The war had never been about victory. The humans had never fought to win. They had fought to make sure the Empire never came back. Panic erupted. Some pleaded for mercy. Others tried to take control of their own fate, choosing self-destruction over whatever end awaited them. But the systems remained locked, their choices stolen from them. The Diplomat spoke one final time. Go home. The fleet's systems reactivated all at once. Weapons still offline, engines barely functioning, navigation restricted to a single course, back to Imperial space. No deviations. No stopping. No control. One by one, the ships turned and began their retreat, the might of the Empire reduced to nothing more than broken survivors fleeing in disgrace. As they passed beyond the orbit of Earth, a final message appeared on every Imperial screen, simple yet absolute. Do not return. They wouldn't. Not because they lacked the strength, not because they lacked the numbers, but because now, when the Empire spoke of Earth, they did not speak of conquest. They spoke only of the Baba Yaga.